Hey, all you Kingdom Hearts fans. And the 0.1% of you that have come from Drake and Josh and Spider-Man 3. Today, I'll be talking about the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC Remind that just released. I'll be talking about the good and the bad. Here's to hoping this DLC reminds us why we love Kingdom Hearts. So, let me just get this out of the way first. Kingdom Hearts has been with me my whole life. It's probably impacted me more than I'll ever know. I've played and completed every release, and while I've certainly loved some more than others, it's always been a series that I've been excited for. Kingdom Hearts 3, however, proved to lessen that a little bit, for me at least. If you want to know my thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3, you can click here. But in short, I found the ending of the Xehanort saga to be incredibly lackluster, mostly for story and pacing reasons. So part of me has been looking forward to this DLC as soon as it was announced, in hopes that it may shine a light towards future Kingdom Hearts titles. Did it do that though? Well, what did it do? This is the most confusing thing I've ever played, and I'm going to explain why. By the way, spoilers for the entirety of the DLC. Let's start with the Remind portion. The DLC starts off with some interesting cutscenes, one with Xigbar, or Lushu, whatever you want to call him, and Luxord. There's also a scene with the Master of Masters and young Xehanort. I really like this back and forth. I mean, it's super Kingdom Heartsy with its dialogue, but I do enjoy it. It's an actual character interaction for once, and it's not exposition heavy. It also brings up some interesting questions for the seemingly new franchise antagonist, and I find that he steals almost every scene that he's in. We then move to modern day Xehanort, and are then met with a huge exposition dump of things that we already knew from the base game. If anything, these concepts were one of the few things that the base game actually did discuss. So I was starting to get confused as to why they keep trying to spout exposition at us, especially since to play it, you have to have a clear data from the base game. This is where I started to get red flags. There was this point in the Remind DLC where I seriously thought for about 20 minutes that I was accidentally kicked into the base game. No, seriously, I typed that into my notes. You play through almost the entire ending of the base game of Kingdom Hearts 3 with very little variance. I realized that I was in the DLC when it was like, oh hey, remember this fight you did before? Well, you can play as Riku now. But they didn't only reuse content here, but for basically the entire Remind portion of the DLC. I've been having these weird thoughts lately. Like, is any of this new or not? God fucking damn, was this portion of Remind a drag to get through. It's like 2 hours of things we've already seen, with fights that we've already done, and the only variance is that you now have the ability to pick another character. At least if you're going to have your events take place in the end of the game through some time travel shenanigans, skip over the portions that we've seen and done. And a huge majority of the cutscenes are already things we've seen before. They play them verbatim. Honestly, the cynical part of me thinks that they did this on purpose to artificially lengthen the experience. Because if you took out these cutscenes and these boss fights that we've already seen from the base game, the experience would be half as long. Now, let me mention the rest of the content that is in the Remind portion that I did think was good. The fact that Scala is more explorable is fantastic. Much like the game as a whole, the world of Scala looks stunning. Gorgeous scenic views of this aquatic, magical world really feels right at home in Kingdom Hearts. What's more wonderful is what's under the surface. This world existing within Xehanort through his memories allows us to know more about his drive, his past, and his character on a sort of meta-diegetic narrative level. It definitely shows us more complexity from Xehanort in a single world than these games have ever convincingly done with any dialogue. This world was in the base game, but we weren't given enough time to ruminate like I think the developers wanted us to, so it didn't have the same impact as it does here. It's melancholic, and the barren nature of the world as a whole really gives this eerie yet beautiful sensation. It's the best world in Kingdom Hearts 3, including the base game, for what it says, and I really appreciate that. There's still not a lot to do, but that says more about this DLC than it does the world. The second component of this DLC that's a component of all Kingdom Hearts that's generally great is the music. Here it fits the world, the new fights, and the data battles, but there really isn't a whole lot of new music, but it's still great. I also really enjoyed the moment where you play as the rest of the cast facing the Xehanorts. Again, reused enemy, and it is a glorified QuickTime event, but wow, did I just really enjoy seeing this cast actually fight together for once. It's super fan servicey, but that's what I want if you're going to have a large cast of characters in a final battle for the universe. The base game was totally lacking this version of fan service. If anything, the base game felt like it was ticking off boxes, but this actually feels like genuine fan service that's actually cool to see. I also really dug the new version of the end credits. Adding Sora and Kairi into these parts was really sweet, and having it be as if Sora was spending his last moments with Kairi was actually kind of poignant. I honestly feel that just this ending was a better moment than the Palpru fruit scene from Base 3. Now, I have more positives to say about the LimitCut portion, but it's also frustrating for its story elements. Story elements. Cutscene between Riku and Terra is another character moment in which it's not just characters spouting exposition at each other. I like that, and it really shows us that there could be a fun relationship between these characters. But it seemed clear that that was the only story that we were getting, because we're immediately placed in Hollow Bastion. Well, not really Hollow Bastion. More like we're placed in a room. But look, there's Final Fantasy characters.
Don't you like that?
Square Enix displayed the Final Fantasy characters in the trailers as if they were going to actually be a part of this DLC, but it feels like relative clickbait now that I've played it. They're really pointless, and they just have a few lines. They're basically just set pieces here. A more optimistic view would be that their inclusion is a sort of apology for their lack of an appearance in the base game, and perhaps it's a signal of things to come for Final Fantasy and the Kingdom Hearts series. But this DLC is kind of hard to feel optimistic about because of everything that I've already said. The cool part about the LimitCut is that we end up getting the data battles from 2, just revamped and extra bosses added. They're hard as all fucking damn shit, and I was only playing on Proud, so I can't imagine how difficult these will be on Critical. I definitely want to go and play them all as someone who's beat the data battles on Critical in Kingdom Hearts 2, and they're definitely a welcome addition in a game that felt ultimately devoid of relatively any difficulty upon release. Also, since they added the ability to tweak your own difficulty in combat, I feel like we'll definitely see some really crazy runs of these fights. My ultimate question with this whole DLC is, how is any of this worth $30? There's such a sparse amount of new content in this that it's actually baffling. I obviously wasn't expecting anything insane like Monster Hunter level DLC because my trust for Square has severely diminished in the last few years, but this is just literally recycled content that they've repackaged and repriced. It also tarnishes what's good here. The Remind portion of the DLC makes the welcome addition of the data battles feel like the development team couldn't come up with their own ideas for an endgame, so they just snatched it from Kingdom Hearts 2 instead. I don't think they've learned why people love Kingdom Hearts 2 so much, but I think that they know if they announced the inclusion of data battles that people would be more apt to buy this, so they included it. And I think that that's also why you see the Final Fantasy characters in their promotion material, even though they're not really a part of this DLC. Okay, so I have to go on a side rant here. Super spoilers for the secret boss, by the way. Noctis, I mean, Yozora is in this. At first when I heard this, I was like, that's pretty fun that they put him in here. But then I went and watched the cutscenes, and what the fuck did I just watch? Is this character really meant to be taken seriously now? Initially, in the base version of Kingdom Hearts 3, his inclusion in the Toy Story world was like a tongue-in-cheek joke. It was meant to poke fun at how Nomura's characters look similar, and about how an anime boy character in the Toy Story world still looks like Sora. And it's also a meta joke regarding Final Fantasy 15. But holy fucking shit, I'm not sure Tetsuya Nomura even played Kingdom Hearts 3 now, because now this guy is basically a legitimate character, it seems. It seems that Nomura is so salty about what happened with his version of Final Fantasy 15 that he's now including him in Kingdom Hearts. I literally can't believe this, and I had to include this somewhere here. Now I'm starting to think, was the 2.9 title not a joke? In summation, my take on this DLC is that there's almost nothing new here. It's really frustrating. Everything feels recycled from the base game, and that's a huge issue. Like I stated before, the in-game, bosses, characters, etc., they're all repackaged. And this isn't even really essential viewing for the story either. When the next Kingdom Hearts title comes out, this will just be a blip. Also, seeing how they've treated certain characters in the past, I don't feel that this DLC will really hold much significance moving forward. This DLC feels like Square Enix just not caring about Kingdom Hearts anymore. It's ultimately a soulless cash grab that I wouldn't even recommend to the most hardcore of Kingdom Hearts fans. This should have been like $10, and it really should have just been the LimitCut episode. But I think Square realized something. At this point, they can pretty much do whatever they want with Kingdom Hearts, and people will still buy it. So, what do you think of all of this? Do you think that the DLC is actually worth the price? Let me know in the comments below. And if you could, you can thumbs up and subscribe for future videos. It'd be much appreciated. If you would like, I've got a Twitter now. It's @LiteralMaverick. If you want to follow that. Regardless, thank you for watching. It's gonna take some time to realize. But if you look, it's all